So, you're amazing at your job. I mean, you're a star engineer, a killer salesperson, a true master of your craft. And what do you get for it? A promotion. But what if that promotion is, well, what if it's a trap? One that's designed to pull you away from the very thing that made you so great to begin with. Today, we're going to break down this career trap that so many of us fall into and give you a survival guide to build a career that you actually love. This quote just perfectly nails it, right? For so many of us, the career ladder is this one-way street that leads directly away from the tools we love. You end up trading your keyboard or your design software or whatever it is you use to create for a calendar that is just jam-packed with meetings. Your value used to be about what you could build. Now it's measured by which meetings you show up to. And that right there is what we call the specialist's dilemma. I mean, think about it like this. You're a world-class chef and you get promoted to restaurant manager. All of a sudden, the skills that made you a genius, your palate, your knife skills, your creativity, they're basically useless. Instead, you're wrestling with spreadsheets, staff schedules, and unhappy customers. It's a system that looks logical, but in reality, it's often completely broken. Now, this isn't some newfangled idea. It was actually identified way back in 1969 by Dr. Lawrence J. Peter. It's called the Peter Principle, and it's brutally simple. You get promoted based on how good you are at your current job, again and again, until, bam, you land in a position that you just can't do effectively. And at that point, you're stuck. You've hit your own personal level of incompetence. So why on earth does this keep happening? Well, it's because the logic that companies use is completely backward. An organization sees a fantastic coder and their first thought is, great, let's make them a manager of other coders. But think about it. The skills of a great coder, like deep focus, working alone, solving elegant problems, those are pretty much the exact opposite of what management requires, which is all about constant interruptions, mediating drama, and wading through bureaucracy. Okay, so if we're going to navigate this maze, we first have to understand the map. The Peter Principle isn't the only law out there that describes the weird logic of corporate life. There are a few others that are kind of satirical, but also uncomfortably accurate. They really help paint the full picture of this absurdity. First up, we've got the Dilbert Principle. Now, this is the darkly funny idea that companies sometimes promote their least competent people into management on purpose. And the logic is kind of twisted, but makes sense. It gets them away from the actual tangible work where they could do some serious damage. Management basically becomes this weird containment zone for mediocrity. And then there's Putt's Law, which just absolutely nails the divide, especially in tech fields. On one side, you've got the brilliant specialists who really understand the technology but have zero authority. And on the other, you've got managers who hold all the power but, let's be honest, often don't really get the technology they're supposed to be in charge of. So you get offered that big promotion, more money, a better title, the whole deal. But here's the hidden trap, the utility cliff. Think of it like eating your favorite cake. The first few bites, amazing. But at some point, one more bite is just going to make you feel sick. Early in your career, a raise makes a huge difference. But eventually, you hit a point where the extra cash just doesn't make up for the crushing stress, the endless meetings, and losing the work you actually enjoy. You go from being a creator to just a coordinator. And for a lot of us, that's a kind of spiritual death. So if climbing that traditional ladder just leads you to this dreaded Peter zone, what's the alternative? Well, the goal isn't to climb higher. The goal is to find and then operate within your zone of genius. This is that magical place where your unique talents and your deepest passions all come together, creating incredible value and, just as importantly, a ton of personal fulfillment. So according to author Gay Hendricks, we all operate in 4 zones. Your zone of incompetence, that's the stuff you're just plain bad at. Your zone of competence is what you can do, but hey, a lot of other people can do it too. Your zone of excellence is where you're a total rock star, and it's what gets you all those promotions. But that zone of genius, that's the work that feels like it was custom made for you. It's the work you were born to do. And just look at the contrast here, it's night and day. The Peter zone feels like you're just pretending, right? You're playing the part of a manager, juggling budgets, mediating drama, and sitting through meetings that go nowhere. But the zone of genius, that's a state of pure flow. You're lost in an elegant algorithm. You're designing something complex and beautiful. You're creating real, tangible value. One drains your soul, the other sets it on fire. So I really want you to ask yourself this question. When do you completely lose track of time? What's that one activity that energizes you so much you'd almost do it for free? Your answer, whatever it is a flashing neon sign pointing directly at your zone of genius. And that is the work you need to protect, no matter what. Okay, so you've figured out your zone of genius. Amazing. But how do you actually stay there when the entire company is trying to reward you by pushing you out of it? Well, you need a defense. You need to master the art of making yourself strategically unpromotable. And the key concept here is something called creative incompetence. Now, this is not about being bad at your job. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about being so unbelievably good at your specialist work that you are indispensable, while at the same time subtly signaling that you would be an absolute train wreck in a management role. It's how you protect your keyboard. All right, here's the two-step plan. First, your core work, your actual output, has to be flawless. I mean, you have to be so good, they literally can't afford to lose you. Second, you have to selectively fail at the symbols and the vibe of management. Be a little messy with your expense reports. Forget to go to the optional leadership happy hour. These small, harmless acts of rebellion send a very clear signal. Now, this is a fantastic real-world example from the source material. A lab tech knew he was next in line for a promotion he really didn't want. So what did he do? He just took his shirt off in the lab and worked in his undershirt, complaining about how hot it was. It was just weird enough to make the bosses think, you know what, maybe not him. He saved his role without getting fired. It's an extreme example, but it shows you the power of being a little strategically weird. But look, creative incompetence is a great defensive move, right? But you can't play defense your whole career. You also need an offense. It's not enough to just dodge bad promotions. You need to proactively build a career path that lets you thrive and get paid well as an individual contributor. When that promotion is officially on the table, you can't just say no, because that can look like you lack ambition. Instead, you need to perform what the source calls a lateral arabesque. It's like this graceful dance move where you sidestep their offer by proposing a different one, a lateral move to a new role with an even fancier, longer title, but one that keeps you doing the specialist work you love. And this all comes down to a really radical shift in how we think about value for both you and your company. You have to fight to get your pay tied to your direct output, to your return on investment, not to how many people report to you. A single elite specialist can be way more valuable to a company than a mediocre manager. And this, right here, this is your power move. Don't make it about what you want. Make it about cold, hard data. You walk into that negotiation ready to show them the dollar value you create as a specialist. You frame it just like this. Keeping you where you create the most value is a massive financial win for the company. It makes it really, really hard for them to say no. And you can still be a massive leader without ever having a manager title. Spend your time automating tedious tasks. Document your brilliant processes so other people can learn from you. Mentor the junior folks. By doing this, you're not just doing your job, you're scaling your impact and creating a legacy of excellence. You're proving you have leadership chops without getting trapped by a calendar. And the really good news is that some companies are finally starting to get this. They're creating solutions like broadbanding, which is just a fancy term for parallel career tracks. It means that elite specialists can earn just as much or even more than managers, based on their expertise, not just their spot in the org chart. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one last really important question. When you look back on your career someday, what are you going to be proud of? The endless alignment meetings you ran, or the elegant, valuable things you actually built and brought into the world? The choice isn't always easy, but protecting your zone of genius isn't just a career strategy. It's an act of self-preservation, and that is the ultimate win.